Welcome to the first episode of Numbers and Nonsense. I'm Joe Nolan, SBA lender by day, dungeon master by night, co-founder of Finest of Dress. And with me is
Aaron Holtzman, CPA, entrepreneur, and your partner in chaos. And Joe, just real quick, that song is pretty dope.
Right, not
Yeah,
bad for a little
I did.
DMCA free music.
Joe picked it. He was like, "You want me to run it by you?" I said, "Nah, just we'll do it live." And yeah, I'm gonna listen to that when we sign off too.
Well, maybe you can tell us a little bit, like, what are we actually doing here? Why are we having this conversation in front of dozens of people on LinkedIn right now?
Hi, Mom. She's probably not even on this stream right now. I don't know if she's able to know how to function on LinkedIn. I'll have to show her later. But yeah, no, for those of you that are joining us live or in the future, the impetus for this really came from Joe and I just having a passion about, small business entrepreneurship. Our careers kind of ended up with us going this trajectory and, having gone from a W-2 job to starting my own CPA firm and now working with a lot of other entrepreneurs and business owners. Um, Firstly, there's a lot of interesting stories out there that can be used both for your own business and even your regular life. But also, you know, coming from a college background, both Joe and I went to Rutgers together. We'll talk
I
about
think
that
we
in a
met on
second.
the
Yeah.
first day of class, right? I'll never forget. We were in XPOS writing at Rutgers, the worst class that you have to take as a freshman. And
Yep.
you stood up and you're like, "Who's going to the Rutgers football game this Saturday?"
And no
And it
one
was like,
said anything. You're the only one. Again, just imagine this baby face, super green, dumb freshman. Like, I'm here to make friends and watch football. And like, at least you know,
I
had the
jumped up and
same.
said, "Hell yeah, brother!"
Exactly.
Uh, and
Exactly.
now, some 20 something years later, here we are. You've got your own CPA firm. I sit as an SBA lender doing small business loans nationwide. And I think it's given us both like a lot of opportunity to see businesses and the struggles people face from a unique seat. A lot of business owners might struggle to talk with other people about these things that they don't realize are fairly common scenarios. But beyond that, we've got our own business together, Finest Address, where we syndicate real estate and do value add. But we've had some of the best conversations I've ever had with you, just yucking it up about a deal or an idea, and then an hour later, we're talking about our favorite YouTube videos from the dorm room days.
Or finding
I
things that just slap, new things with old vibes.
That's
No,
right.
that's exactly it. Again, our conversations would just be, a lot of intellectual thinking for nothing that ever came of it. So we just want to share that with everyone else, pretty much.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories that come out. And really, one of the ones I think will be important for people to hear is your own story. I remember coming out of school, you got your CPA, you got your MBA, and you were working at a big firm up in New York City, top 30 auditing,
Yep.
some giant clients. And even then, you were telling me some crazy stories about quick service restaurants and
Oh
you
yeah.
just can't believe that the business is actually getting done. But I mean, tell our people who are watching a little bit more about you. How did you come to own your own practice?
Yeah. And again, a lot of people that we're going to have on this podcast as guests in the future are going to be doing a similar path. But, again, Joe and I, we both met at Rutgers University. After graduating, I worked at what I would call a quote unquote small firm in Manhattan of about 50 people. Cut my teeth there for 2.5 years and then went to a top 30 firm, also in New York. And that's where, I made my career. I loved it there. I had really good mentors. I saw my whole future kind of laid out ahead of me. I was partner track. And I remember, talking with my dad years ago saying, I know what the next 30 years of my life is going to look like. And it was going to be a beautiful life. But at the same time, that also scared the crap out of me because life is also supposed to be an adventure. And, you know, you guys will come to know I have this entrepreneurial itch, and it it's one of those things where when you're succeeding at something, but you still feel like there's an opportunity you're not taking. Um, I always like being a CPA. I always knew I could get a job anywhere, um, And I knew that if I didn't try my own firm and try my own entrepreneurial venture, that was going to be one of my biggest regrets. And I also knew that if I failed, I'd go back and get a job somewhere. So,
Well, and you've been an entrepreneur as long as I've known you. I'll never forget Gatanam,
oh my
your
God. Yep.
your
Yep.
startup that was going to take down Yelp and Grubhub and everything
Uber
like that.
Eats. Yeah. Uber Eats wasn't even a thing anymore, or but when we started.
You were ahead of the
Yeah.
curve for sure.
We
What
introduced the
what what
market to Atlantic City.
what was Gatanam?
Oh man. Okay. So Gadanom was, I mean, for everyone now, it's like a Seamless or Uber Eats or Grubhub. Back when it was still kind of the Wild West, back in the early, 2010s. And so it was very much a platform where you could order food online from local restaurants. But we kind of put the model on its head, whereas what the other companies were doing, which was charging massive fees on a per order basis, upwards of 20 to 30% in some cases against the restaurants. We were doing a very nominal fee of like $20 a month for registration and then just passing along, credit card costs to the restaurants. So we were being a little more restaurant forward, and trying to be a little more friendly in that capacity, because honestly, again, I work with a lot of restaurants now, and as I was back then, and they still get hosed by these third
Oh my
party
God.
apps. Yeah.
Maybe more than ever now. Now you didn't have to worry about your credit card processing terminal offering you a 10-month loan at 35% interest back in the day.
Yeah, those things, and they're killer now because they just take it right out
Mm-hmm.
of your sales, and so you're just hemorrhaging cash. You might be cash flow negative, from selling product just because you're repaying this loan at such a crazy rate, and the interest is stupid high too. Don't
Oh
get me
my
started
God,
on
yeah.
that.
So we'll turn back into the pivot. I remember talking with you when you decided that you were going to leave New York, right,
Yep.
during COVID. Decided to take a chance and move down to Austin, Texas, where you and your wife and your two kids live today, and now you were able to use the work from home, the remote nature of COVID to keep that job and
Yep.
transition, right? So you
Yeah.
had sort of the best of both worlds there for a minute.
It was even better because I was making Manhattan money in Austin, Texas. But again, I to what we were kind of talking about. Knock on wood, I had a lot of good things going for me, um, but at the same time, I wanted to take that risk. And I think the other piece of it too was I learned over the years that I had what it took to grow my own book of business, and especially in the world of professional services, be it accountant, attorney, consultant, or even in the trades, electrician, plumber, or any small business. You got to be able to generate a clientele for yourself. And I got comfortable doing that. And I said, why am I going to sit around and wait for some old guy to retire to inherit a book of business with clients that I might not want to be working with, and also pretty much pay for a job? Because again, there are expectations, especially at bigger firms, for partners to be hitting hourly minimums and all the things that go with that. So I said, a big facet of the entrepreneurship was twofold. Firstly, obviously making more money and having the runway to, hey, if I need to make more, I have the ability to do so, but also work around my life, not live around my work.
You didn't want to have your kids look back at pictures of your wife holding up a little cardboard version of you at like soccer practice or dance recitals, right? You actually wanted to be there, be a
Yep.
part of your kids' life. And I
Exactly.
remember like 16-hour days that you'd have to be in the office in Manhattan, right? And that doesn't count the hour commute each way
No.
during tax season.
Yeah.
It's
As
hard to have a life when you're never there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as people say this all the time on LinkedIn, but never use it in practice. It's like no one's gonna remember how many tax returns I filed in a year, but they will remember all the birthdays I miss.
Mm.
So, and again,
Yeah.
when I say work around my life, I'm still pulling some of those crazy hours, especially in peak tax season. But a day in the life of a dad entrepreneur CPA is you wake up, drop the kids off at daycare. I'm there for breakfast. I go to the office, work out there with my team, come home, have dinner with my wife and kids, and I'm there until bedtime. And then 8 o'clock at night, everyone's asleep. I clock in and I work till midnight or 2 in the morning. Again, fortunately, that's not year round. But at the same time, it's
No,
you
that would
go and
really
you
cut
be
into your
present.
Civ 7 time.
I'm already done with the game. I sunk my 10 hours into it. I'm bored. uh,
All right, fine. Europa Universalis.
yeah, I'm waiting for the fifth edition to come out. It's coming out later this year, hopefully, so I can nerd out some more.
So we've danced around it, right? We've said that you got opened up your own practice, but you didn't jump without having a little bit of a starting line, right?
Yeah.
You actually worked with me at the time to secure an SBA 7A loan to purchase a book of business from a CPA down in Austin who was retiring, right?
Yep. And also,
Talk to me a little bit about that. Like, how did you find this opportunity?
for sure. Also, just real quick too, I have a partner in crime. His name's Michael Crane. He's the Crane and Crane Holtzman CPAs, and talking about how entrepreneurship can be very lonely and nerve wracking. Like, I don't think I could have done it without Mike. I needed to have someone that I could commiserate with, I guess you could say, at the end of the day. But yeah, after we decided, hey, let's be entrepreneurial together. Um, there are plenty of companies out there that list CPA firms. I still get plenty of emails saying firms for sale and all that kind of fun stuff. And with us wanting to take a step in that direction, we were specifically looking for a certain size of a firm, not one that's going to be so big that we would, as new business owners haven't never done it before, have to pick something massive up and could kind of drop the ball, but also something that had a little bit of runway so we could quickly try to cover our salaries. And knock on wood, our first year, working, and again, working with you to close that loan, um, our first year we covered our salary, and year two and year three, and now we're into year four. Knock on wood, we've exceeded our salary. We've grown 2x over the last 3 years. We're now a seven-figure firm, and yeah, and people have 401k and healthcare through us. So we're a big boy company, you could call
That's
it.
incredible. And I mean, to take what was a modest book of business and to be able to use that as a launching pad to really take your unique entrepreneurship in the space. I think I've said it to you before, but there's a lot of different people in accounting and just in general in uh, financial services. There's bookkeepers who are maybe good at a specific task. There's top 30 partners that are a very specific type of person. And then there's people that I think like you that are extremely rare, that are great salespeople and great at connecting the story beyond the numbers, and being able to find those people and how quick you're able to attract the right customers, right?
Yeah.
Because we talked a lot about you having to figure out as an entrepreneur the hard questions. There's no one who tells you what to charge a new client, right? So how did you adjust to that, trying to figure out like everything that you didn't even know that was that you were taking advantage of in the big firm structure and
Yeah.
translating that into your own business?
And also I think going from a W-2 job where I was making X number of dollars hourly to going, oh, I could do a $200 or $300 return in half an hour. My hourly rate is I'm making $500-$600 an hour. That's great. I should just do that all the time. But then you realize that firstly, it doesn't take you half an hour, it takes a little bit longer, and then just doing a volume business like that is very transactional. And not that there isn't opportunity there, but being self-aware and wanting to grow and figure out what I'm passionate about and the type of clients that I want to work with and how I want to work with them has been key. A lot of, especially in the CPA world, for smaller practitioners, they chase revenue. They don't chase profit. They'll just bring on a new client without properly vetting them. If a prospective client comes to me going, hey, I haven't filed my taxes in 5 years. I have an IRS audit going on. Can I help? Can you help me? Sorry, no, we're not for you. Because we want to work with people that respect the risk that comes with not filing, wants to take care of things, and respects a professional in that way. So I would say going from what I've told you, Joe, plenty of times, moving from the transactional work, the type of work of, hey, here's my tax documents. Why is my return not done? It's been 3 days. It's been a week. And more towards value add work, insisting on client meetings during the year. It's just been an evolution every year. knock on wood, it's been in the right direction. We're now growing with clients that I feel like are being properly serviced by us, and at the same time are appreciative of what we're doing. Because again, you got to figure out as a business owner and entrepreneur, who are you? Who are you servicing? Are you a discount type of a business? Which is there's nothing wrong with that. There's H&R Blocks. There's plenty of CPAs that are competing with H&R Blocks, and we're not that. With that, and it was very easy for us to potentially get stuck in that model too. Because if you're just chasing revenue, going, yeah, I can just bang out all these little tiny returns, but then you look at your client base and are wondering if they're going to be clients next year because you're not talking to them outside of tax season, and they're looking for the cheapest, option. Um, that's not a way that I wanted to build my business. And
You're not trying to be the cheapest on the block. You're
no,
trying to be
no,
the best value for the dollars, which is not going to necessarily be. Uh, you don't want to work with people that are trying to be penny wise and dollar foolish.
exactly. And I mean, to that extent, coming from the big firm background, we're able to take these lessons that Mike and I both learned working with these massive businesses and bring them down to, 7-figure, 8-figure, even 6-figure revenue businesses. Um, I mean, one of the biggest pieces that I've had to learn was how to scale, how to grow, how to build a team. And that's something that a lot of people get stuck on, going from just yourself to employee number one. That's the biggest jump that you'll ever take because that's the biggest decrease in your income. And that's going to be the biggest increase, in mentorship and responsibility sharing, and potential reputational risk because you're, delegating, relying on someone to represent you with your customers the way you would want to be represented. So it's
Well, and
yeah,
there's
it's nerve
so much
wracking.
behind that. I mean, you just in general scaling, you hit the nail on the head. That employee one is the biggest bureaucratic leap. But what's so interesting is someone who is setting it up can be a value of that smaller business, right? Someone can be literally instrumental to getting that thing off the ground and then instantly become a choke point when you have 5 employees and you can't
Yep,
grow beyond them.
yep.
Sometimes that's leaders, sometimes that's people that get placed into positions, sometimes that's tech debt. But eventually, organizations tend to grow to their incompetence, if that makes sense.
Just like
So,
leaders and
right.
individuals, you get promoted to the position you shouldn't be.
So, with that in mind, I guess, what would you try to tell yourself now before the transaction would have gone through? Any big lessons that you wish you had a chance to teleport through time and tell young Hambone?
Rambone, come on. Honestly, I think the biggest thing for me would have been be don't be so afraid to increase fees. Um, and again, I think that just comes with learning and that kind of stuff. But also, don't be afraid to fire clients. Knock on wood, we're not concerned with releasing clients that aren't good fits for us anymore. Some of them self-eliminate. Others we've had to be like, hey, listen, there's the door. But I think that's the biggest one is make sure that you're working with people that appreciate you, pay you what you're worth, and that you're taken care of properly as well. All my clients that I talk with, they say it's a two-way street. Um, you know, you need to feel like you're being serviced and taken care of properly, and myself and my team need to feel like we're being compensated fairly for our efforts. And at any point in time, we can walk the other way. There's no, this isn't feudal Europe, and I'm not the lord or the peasant in this relationship. We work together for the mutual benefit.
Well said. Well said. It's the best the best people you can work with in a professional setting are the ones that want to help you grow, right?
Yep.
There's a lot of order takers out there. We've come across a lot of them working through Finest Address. But working with someone like you is just transformational. And, I try to act that way as well when I work with small business owners. I have a chance to generally meet people at a little bit different of point in their cycle where maybe they're not stable. They're looking to grow, acquire a business, buy out a partner, need working capital, need to refinance debt. Um, but I think it's given us both a really interesting view into nationwide what's happening in business. I don't know if you saw it over the weekend, but there was like an article that was going around. about Gen Z and micro retirement. They've invented this new term for every 12 to 18 months, taking a week or two off of work. Uh,
Yeah, I'm aware of it because you sent me a screenshot of it. You're like, yo, check this out. Yeah, every 12 to 18 months, taking a week or two off of work. And you and I had a laugh at it because we're like, that's called a vacation. And that
yeah.
should be done once every year to year and a half. I mean, again, every business is different. Every small business, especially, is different. But I mean, knock on wood, for my team and myself, like, we have over 20 days of paid time off for personal use on top of lots of holidays, summer Fridays. And it's really because my industry, it's very busy for certain times of the year, but other times it's like, hey, now it's time to recharge. I mean, one of my colleagues just went on a 2.5 week trip to Europe. Another one is currently in Europe, and she's going to be coming back after.
Micro retired for that long?
Yeah, yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I'm not paying him. Yeah, but I mean it blows my mind that rather than just calling it a vacation, they're calling it a micro retirement.
Well, I feel bad for the younger generation because I feel we're not that old, right? Mid 30s, but when we were coming up,
Okay, boomer.
I mean, we had some opportunities to get those entry level jobs.
Yeah.
Like there was some decent opportunity. We were in the same fraternity. I know I had a chance to work with alumni to have introductions to the financial services world, and there was companies that, especially banks, had training programs for onboarding, for sales, and it feels like a lot of these like viral things, like micro retirement, that's half dunking on Gen Z, just sort of misses the point that this poor generation is watching the ladder get pulled up right in front of them, with people, like literally the entire software industry is changing in front of our eyes, as it went from the most sure bet to get a six-figure job out of school to maybe the most over flooded field right now, because so many of those big tech companies did cuts because
Massive
they're not trying to grow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Massive redundancy. AI is it already is shaking up a lot of businesses. I mean, even for ourselves, Joe, you and I, we have AI note takers on every meeting we
That's
do
right.
together. And
that could have been an intern.
It could have been. And it's funny though, because people will get very concerned about that. I mean, years ago, I've been doing recruiting for years in my profession. And I remember 7, 8 years ago, students were asking me, oh, is AI, what is being done for AI right now at the CPA firm level? And it's still, I mean, even to this day, it's still in its infancy. It's not, doing the work there yet. But I kind of liken it to how many jobs were replaced by just Microsoft Office Suite, Microsoft Excel, Outlook, Word. I mean, how many power professionals got either fired outright or were just not replaced when they retired? Back in the day, a partner at a firm, a law firm or CPA firm or any professional services firm, might have had 2 to 3 admins working for them. Now it's one admin for 2 to 3 to 4 partners. So I kind of view the change in productivity, on the professional field, to just continue to go up. But to your point, that also means that the volume and the tediousness of the work is going to be removed, and more is going to be emphasized on relationships and communication. And yeah, I mean that's actually another reason why we are that's not the reason why, but it's another reason that that benefits us from moving away from the transactional model, because people are paying to work with myself or with one of my other colleagues, not for the work to be done in a certain way. Because once AI starts doing that, then I'm going to spend all my time just talking to my clients and giving them better quality service.
And I've seen it, right? I mean, you have a chance to get in there and you talk with people. And especially in the small business world, I find that there's so many smart people that are in positions to run these businesses or help influence those, but just don't have all the information.
Yep.
Like small business lending, for example, isn't like your mortgage where everyone has the same terms and there's not only a couple things that aren't standardized. I like to tell people, once you're outside of the consumer world, it is back to buyer beware. There are no fraud protections. There are no usury laws. There are no requirements for scrutable lenders. There's a lot of different ways that businesses can easily get access to capital, and then there's ways that you can, make intelligent investments. And the problem is, I was joking about it earlier, that 30% loan from Square or
Yeah.
PayPal or whatever, like that's happening every day. And I've seen people who are smart, intelligent, successful franchise owners that will say, wow, this is so much better than taking out equity. I still own all of it and it's gone in 10 months,
Yeah.
and then
It's easy. You do it
it's
with the
easy.
click of a button. They're already in your POS system. You know, uh, the easier something is, the more likely it is not the right fit for your situation.
Right. Well,
Because
I was
someone's
at
making money somewhere.
I met them. I was at a conference up here at the Federal Reserve in Philadelphia, and it was on small business and blockchain. It was a really fascinating, I think it was 2022 or 2023. And there was a panel with three guys that were there, all from the Quicken School. So, like,
Oh
there
man.
was
Okay.
someone from QuickBooks, there was someone from Square, and then I forget what the third one was. And they were saying that they are able to do better underwriting faster than anyone else because they are looking at market level data. So, when you have that pop up, they're not just looking at your POS.
Yep.
They also have anonymized reports that show the overall health of accounting sector, the overall health of Austin, Texas.
Yep.
And they are able to cut off lending before traditional lenders like myself would ever have a chance to realize that something was wrong. So they're trying to shift the risk curve and make this risk adjusted premium just by thinking they're smarter than everyone else and having proprietary access to data. And then they get first lien on all the cash flow because the money will come straight to their payment before it ever goes to the small business owner's account.
Yep. And again, it's not called an interest, or they have their stated interest rate, just that the interest is tacked on at the front. And then if you repay it back, in the course of weeks, even, you just paid 6% interest for a loan that you took out for 2 to 3 months, as opposed to a full year or something like that. And that's how, like you were saying, you get to 20, 30%, APRs and all that kind of fun stuff. It's brutal.
And you used to be able to refinance them until June 1st of this year. They were SBA eligible for refinance. The new SOP came out, or standard operating procedure, and boom, MCAs are now classified as ineligible. Yeah. So now, someone might have been working on refinancing a big debt. Someone might have been having a whole structured capital thing. Like, hey, I can't wait the 90 days for the SBA loan. Let me go get this equipment loan right now and I'll pay it off. And all of a sudden that whole plan changes. So, it's a tough world out there. And it's, that's something you'd have to worry about in the W-2 world, right? You're sort of protected a little bit by the structures that are around you, but it's also frustrating because you're hemmed in by those same structures and processes.
Yeah. And I would say, for anyone that is listening that, is an entrepreneur thinking about doing it, just make sure you got a good team put together, like an attorney, like a CPA. They can bounce an idea like this off of, and we could say, that's not a good idea. Let me introduce you to Joe Nolan, who's an SBA lender. Because that's really the value add of us as professionals. My value add is not tax compliance. My value add is I know a lot of people in a lot of different industries on a lot of different levels that can help outside of just your books and records. And that's where you're able to shine, where I'm able to shine, and the people that we work with, some attorneys that we work with, that's where we're able to be difference makers for our clients.
Agreed. Yeah. If anyone is looking for a terrific CPA and a mediocre fantasy football player, Aaron is your man.
Sorry, I got first place 2 years ago. Did you win? Did you ever win?
All right, let's not get into it. That's cut this. All right. Well, I think we're coming up on half an hour, so I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up there. This is our first episode, and Aaron and I are trying not to let perfect get in the way of good. So any feedback you have, we'd love to hear it. We have a Discord server where you can jump in, talk with other like-minded people, and throw out questions that we might be able to answer for you next week. And we're really looking forward to interacting more with the community and bringing on more people to be able to talk about their own journey in the world. There's a lot of stories out there, and by telling them, I think we all get a little bit smarter and a little bit better at writing our own.
Ditto. Could have said it better myself, Joe. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Have a great rest of the day.